Thanks.
That'd be a good time to tell you that my youngest son broke his arm playing. That time.
It's 6 o'clock.
It's 6 o'clock.
All right, it's 6 o'clock, August 10th. I'm gonna call our meeting to order. We'll want everyone to rise for pledge of allegiance.
Dear.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United
States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The roll call, we are missing one. Lee is out in the Black Hills on vacation, so I hope he's having a good time out there. I'll need a motion and a second to adopt tonight's agenda, please.
I move to adopt tonight's agenda.
I second the motion.
If there's any questions or changes we would like to do with tonight's agenda.
Are we gonna move?
Yeah, we talked about, moving, which item?
Security.
Number one on new business to the last item.
Okay,
That means that Bob's got to wait a while, it's like, the second,
Oh, sorry, am I wrong?
number, cybersecurity, right? Number 2 down.
No, I think it's one.
Number one.
new business, one to five.
Yeah.
We're just moving everything down. All right, thank you. Okay. Any other questions or changes?
Cybersecurity.
Okay, staying there. Yeah,
A certain reason why I was confused, other than the fact that it said by normal state affairs. Is there had been some discussion about the cybersecurity issue in the water and whether or not that should be a closed part of the meeting. And I would suggest that,
No, that was not,
is that, am I wrong about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
So it's item number one, that we were talking about closing perhaps.
Number one.
So that is the one that you
Yeah.
are. That's still, okay, that's office security, that's not water security, and yes, that's appropriate. Never mind.
Okay,
Thank you.
right. Sounds good.
Although cybersecurity would be a matter we could.
Yeah, no, when I saw that, I guess that was my initial reaction, but unless you're dealing with specifics, and quite honestly, you may want to do that. If you're gonna be closing any part of it, you might as well close them both.
So the statement's already in the packet, which has already been distributed.
Forget it. It's very short and sweet, right? I went out and planned. All right.
Okay,
It's really just a PSA.
all right, well, we'll go ahead and with one move down to the last one, a new business. All in favor of adopting tonight's agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion and a second, please?
I'll make the motion to accept the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Any questions, changes, or consent agenda?
I had a number of things I wanted to speak to. Starting with the June 22nd. Meeting minutes. Under. Other. So right at the tail end of the minutes. Third paragraph down. Not continued, those that are spreading rumors should stop, et cetera, et cetera. I had suggested that council direct our city attorney to follow up on the matter directly with the individual who was accountable for that. Which he did. But I don't remember if it was just a consensus. But required if there was a motion, I'm not sure what transpired in that part of it. I don't quite recall, but I do remember asking Fritz if he could follow up, and he followed up. So I would like that added to the minutes. I'm not sure what happens to the follow-up document, how that gets treated or handled.
At this point, there would be no reason to change its status. It's not. anything that needs to be more public than it is already.
Okay.
Which is somewhat public. I'm getting scrutiny from the member of the press over there. You needn't worry. But yeah, no, I followed through on that with some correspondence that was kind of between me and them.
Okay, so, that was the one comment I had on the meeting minutes, and if anybody else had anything else before I move on to something else. Okay, I did want to highlight, just go to the, fund cash balances. I believe on page 17, sorry, on page 17. You'll see our fund balance, general fund balance now has a positive balance of $160,000, basically. We did finally receive the county property tax settlement. It was, better than what we had budgeted for by about $42,000. Don't know why. We may have new properties or maybe some of the assessments came in differently. I'm not sure. And I'm also not sure that that's gonna transfer into the second payment or not, but that's just the general fund. So that's good news. And it, put us in a better position exactly this time of year last year than this time of year last year with our fund balance. So another good piece of news. Another good piece of news is the Springs Inn property owner did pay their first half portion of property tax and abatement. And the abatement was $33,674. And that went back to the capital fund. So you'll see the balance in the capital fund has increased as a result of that, which is now $200,729. In addition, our LGA was received, and that was exactly on budget. A couple of things came in one thing from the state, the small cities grant came in lower than projected. It's based on some formula, which I don't quite understand, but it came in a couple $1,000s less than what we had budgeted. And the solar reimbursement we get, that came in lower than expected, lower than we budgeted, I guess. And again, that's all based on their production. We get, I forget what the tax rate is, but we get 20% of it, and the county gets 80%. Just make a note, the sewer fund is uncomfortably low fund balance. No real remediation for that. Although one thing council, this council and future councils need to remember is the city did take a loan out of the sewer fund. It either can or cannot be paid back, depending on what the council chooses to do. It doesn't have to be paid back, but it can.
And then the amount of that,
With interest is over 100,000. I think the original principal was like 90, 91, something like that. We can talk about that more when we get into budgeting.
Yeah.
But want to make sure the incoming council is aware of that, because none of us were. I think that's it.
Thank you. Robert, do you have anything you'd like to discuss or yet?
nope. Ready to approve the consent agenda.
Sure.
Ready.
Okay. One thing I'd like to bring up is we did have discrepancies with the minutes, June, 22nd. From a resident, and so I'm thinking that we should work with Fritz and Sherry before we approve them. So I would like to remove those from tonight's consent agenda and give us a month to rectify any issues there might be and make sure that we're not missing anything.
Mr. Mayor, it's just that you remove and then table those.
Okay.
For consideration for the next meeting.
Okay. So, do I make a motion on top of the motion that's open right now? Yep, okay. I'll go ahead since I brought it up. I'd like to make a motion to remove and table the June 22nd, minutes. Yes.
I'll second that.
Any other questions on that right now? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
All right,
Aye. All right, any other questions on the consent agenda? Okay, all in favor of approving the consent agenda minus the minutes that we tabled, say aye.
all right.
Now we'll move into public forum, a different room. I don't have any sheets given to me, but we're all staring at each other. So would anybody like to take 3 minutes and speak over here? Rick?
Yeah, I don't really know, but a guess might be on your additional tax receipts. There be, some cleanup money from the motel property coming back on the first half. I could get the explanation of that.
No, I explained that separate.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That wasn't part of the general fund.
I'll just throw that out there.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know.
There were some minor, so the number I took was just a regular general fund. Dollars that we received from the county. There were some, overdues that were in there as well and some other minor things. I stripped all of those out, so, so it was a direct comparison of what we budgeted for general fund.
Okay. Then the other thing I have, I noticed on the agenda, late in the new agenda, there's some quotations on security gates and panic buttons and all that kind of stuff. Is due to a guy that a lot of us know that kind of went off and lost his marbles last week or two. Anyway, I talked to his cousin. He's under armed guard at the Fairview Hospital right now. And then he will be, just so people know. And then he'll be arrested and kept in jail for some time to come to stand for terroristic threats. But I guess it may not be from what happened here. It may be from other things around town that he was causing. So I would just hate for the council to get a knee-jerk reaction, like happens too often. Spend a bunch of money because of this. Let's get better bids, think about it, think about the alternatives, about security for the staff. I mean, there's no way to really have ultimate, in my opinion, ultimate security. I mean, you could have somebody hiding in that forest out behind when they go to their car and jump out at them 3 feet away. I mean, an alternative to think about might be like they do down in the cities. People have to go to work late in those office buildings. There is trainers that come out and teach situational awareness and all kinds of, I don't mean judo and karate and that kind of stuff. I mean, teach about awareness, how to be aware of and what to do. So you have a plan of action to, as what's happening. I think that would be much cheaper than spending $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. Spend a couple thousand on an expert to really, dig into how to react to situations, because you really can guard against everything. You can work at a post office and you can be shot. You can work at a church and be shot, or a school. And what about the poor gal with purple hair down a Quick Trip, a counter that wide with people coming in? It's just part of our culture today. You just gotta be aware. That's my opinion, what should be done.
That's 3 minutes, Rick.
Well, somebody, did you deduct for the?
No.
Thank you, Rick. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Okay. Well, thank you all. We'll move into old business then, the North Star Group. And Mike, take,
He's not here.
He's not able to make it today. I told him that's okay.
okay,
I felt like his proposal was very straightforward.
okay.
There's a lot of family.
Yeah. No,
extensively.
So basically, I know we've been working with Mike and Todd, and, Mike's been a wealth of knowledge moving forward. He's really served and helped our office a lot, taking a lot of work that we would have to go to another company that would cost us double what he's charging us in here, so at least. He put a proposal together just to, so that we can keep him not on, staff necessarily, but at least we have him available. And he gave us a rate, of $75 per hour, to keep on utilizing, and continuing moving forward, because I think they've done a lot of good stuff for us. I know I'm summarizing it and really dumbing it down, but we'll need a motion in a second, and we can then discuss if we're on board with this proposal.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve, the proposal, from the North Star Group for, professional services proposal for Mike Terry.
Second,
Who did it?
Carol, I just have one comment.
Yes.
On that proposal. $75 an hour. And it would be kind of good to know how many hours we're talking about on a monthly basis. Because, I used to work for $75 an hour, and that can be a lot of money in a week and a lot of money in a couple weeks. And so I'm wondering if we should cap the amount that we're paying him on a monthly basis. And actually, our proposal did that. And so I wonder if we should just go back to Mike and ask him, and staff too, how many hours per month you anticipate that you're gonna use Mike's time. And I know that might be difficult to do. Because we have a lot of projects that we're working on, not the least of which is completing a comprehensive plan. And land use and everything that goes with that. That could be really involved and take a lot of his time. So I'm just wondering if we can quantify it a little bit so that we're not out there and owing him at the end of, at the end of the month, $15,000. Because right now I don't know where that's coming from. So can we talk to him? Oh, go ahead.
Whenever you're done, then. I was working with Mike when putting this together, so I can speak on your questions as much as I can.
Okay. So my question is, can we do that? Can we cap his monthly hours?
So part of the reason we went with an hourly rate is, and yes, I think maybe a cap would be appropriate. You can definitely do that. But I was uncomfortable doing like a monthly amount, like a retainer and then a monthly amount, because when we need him fluctuates so much, like we might not need him, or like I might not have the capacity to work with him for, a month, but then the next month I might need him for, this, and this are due. Can you take this, and this? So, that's why we didn't go with a monthly. And we went with an hourly so we could use him as needed. And then he has two different rates for two different types of projects. And part of the perspective there, part of it was to kind of help me with some zoning things. And my hourly rate at time and a half isn't that much less than his 75, if you consider that overtime. So I think what he has is very reasonable. And yeah, you guys can discuss maybe what's appropriate for a cap, or maybe it would be appropriate for me to ask my liaison or whoever, maybe you or Tim, you're the finance guys, if I could utilize him for said projects before we move forward with it without council approval, or if council wants to be more involved, maybe every month we can kind of be like, okay, what's on deck? we can do it that way too. So there's just a few different ways to go about it.
So, without council approval, he could work almost 27 hours a month and not go over that $2,000 cap. So I don't know if you have any history or estimate on how many hours that he has been working or might be needed, but that's one good indicator that if not to exceed 26 hours a month unless directed by council. And then if you know it's gonna take longer, you would have to then prepare and have him submit something to.
Yeah, instead of hours, since he has two different hourly rates, not to
Oh.
exceed 2,000.
Combined, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that was just using the 75 an hour.
Yeah,
Over something like you're saying, municipal services, it would be the 75, project funded. Was basically saying if we have a huge project that he has to do and we're getting reimbursed through grants or whatever, he would charge 95, right? That's what I read out when I read it, so.
and another perspective is, like, say I need help with something, my backup right now is Bolton Hank and they're 175 an hour. So I think what he has is very reasonable and, depending on how much, you guys want me to use him, we could get caught up to a more manageable level, so we wouldn't need him at all. Or as much.
So we'd not to exceed 2,000 a month.
That works for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
And as Elizabeth said, that's not part of the line, we're gonna give them 2,000.
That doesn't mean we're gonna max them out every, no,
Really,
but we don't want projects to be like held up. So, for example, we have a safe routes to school project that we wanted to move forward with. I'm backlogged, so, it would be a lot on me to move that forward. So that was an example of a project that we would probably have them move forward on, something that needs a little bit of project management.
And I think coming into budget season, we can budget maybe more towards him and less from.
Yeah.
Bulk.
Yeah.
Just because.
I like that, I guess.
Yeah.
Valuable.
Yeah,
Not to say that they won't do a good job. but
right.
it's just-
Mike really has I wish he was here to give his spiel, but he really has a passion for planning and a soft spot for these small cities who can't afford quality, planning services and bigger cities. His passion is to come and help out at a decent rate. There's a lot of passion behind it.
$75 for professional services under the.
Yeah,
Yeah,
think you
it's
can.
And he knows,
Yeah.
having participated in that process and a lot of other things, he knows us really well, knows Elizabeth well.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of value there as well.
Yeah, both Mike and Todd have been so helpful to us. And this is the last time now. Fabulous.
Any questions, Carol? Do we want to revise to not exceed 2,000 per month? Otherwise, she has to come back to council.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll amend my motion, to approve a professional services agreement with Mike Darrow, as is, with the exception, not to exceed $2,000 per month without council approval.
Second that.
Any other comments? All right, all in favor, say aye.
I,
Okay, so, number 2, under old business, we put data center back on here. We're gonna let Fritz kind of go over some stuff. We have some residents that are deeply concerned. They're not here tonight, but, that the future councils will go ahead and allow, data centers under Taylor's Falls. We do have it in our ordinance right now that you can't be in Taylor's Falls with a data or a center, and I don't know what more we can do, so I wanted Fritz just to kind of speak. We've been requested to do a moratorium on top of this. And I don't know why we would do a moratorium since we already have an ordinance. So I wanted him to just kind of educate us. And I was hoping those individuals were here. Unfortunately, they'll have to read it in minutes or watch the video. But Fritz, I'm gonna let you take it away.
Okay, well, thanks. First off, there is a summary that were in the materials that I believe were prepared by Councilman Grubb that are.
Again, I apologize.
Like you said, out very nicely. What I'll just say is that Taylor's Falls is actually ahead of the curve. You prohibited these data centers from being built anywhere in your city before it got to be a thing. Kudos, I guess, to Elizabeth for catching that on the way and all the rest.
Brandon brought it up actually.
Okay, and you, Mr. Mayor, and everyone else. So you're ahead of the curve here. The question is, okay, you prohibited it in your ordinance. What if somebody wants to build one anyway? And that's the same as it is under any other circumstance where somebody wants to construct something that your ordinance prohibits. It's hard to do. You can't do it without all kinds of gymnastics or an emergency or anything like that. You're about as safe in Taylor's Falls from data centers, at least based on your ordinances, as anybody is in the state. Does that mean that somebody could come, an incredibly wealthy developer and, dangle something in front of you and, all I need you to do is just, shut up? Well, this would prohibit that from happening, but you still couldn't build it. Bottom line is you prohibited it. Most cities that talk about a moratorium are seeking a moratorium because they don't have this in their ordinances and they're trying to prohibit it. And I've had at least one call from someone saying, "Say, I understand that you guys did this." And I said, "Yes, we did." "How are you doing it?" "Oh, it's pretty easy, really. There's this list of prohibited uses in your city and you put data center in it, you're done." So you're gonna see more and more of that, and I suspect again, by the way, that Taylor's supposed to kind of led the charge on this, maybe not realizing that you were carrying a sword and shield as you were, but you did the right thing, and there's really nothing else that I could advise you to do at this point, certainly not a moratorium. Because a moratorium is something that prohibits these kinds of developments from occurring while the city studies the issue of whether or not it should prohibit it, but you've already prohibited it. There's something to preclude you from more study if you want, but you don't have to have a moratorium in order to do that. So you beat it to the punch. Nice problem to have, I think.
Get a game on something for us.
And I did put together the fact sheet. I had Fritz review it and I had Elizabeth review it. It's included in the packet today. Quite honestly, I'm really tired of spending more than 1 second on data centers anymore. It's so unproductive.
Yeah.
We have a prohibition in any zoning district, all zoning districts against them, period. So I would suggest put this on our website. So anybody who gets any questions about it, just direct them to that. It's 1 page, clear and concise. And I'm not going to respond to anybody other than that, to point them in the direction of the fact sheet. So that's one suggestion I would have. There are people who are concerned about what a future council may do. Well, even what this council could do. But it's mostly what we did this. So what about a future council? What can they do? Well, it's an ordinance. And any new or revisions to an existing ordinance have to go through a specific process. It takes time and it requires a public hearing. Can you do that? Yeah, sure. A new council could eliminate this provision. But I would just encourage people, I don't say who's running for council. I don't think anybody would do that. But I would just say, ask those questions of the candidates. Do you support a data center in our town? Okay. One, no. Um, and, and then if something changes, there'll be a public hearing, show up. That's all you have to do. And the last thing is that, you know, we've been asked, well, what if Schaefer Township goes on? Well, that's not our concern. We're gonna focus on matters that relate to the city of Taylor's Falls, and I'm not gonna stick my head into what Schaefer Township is doing. It's Schaefer Township and a county matter. It's not ours. Go to county planning meetings. Go to Schaefer Township board meetings if you want to. But don't come to the Taylor's Falls City Council and ask us to intervene on another municipality. I don't think that's appropriate.
I'm wondering if some people don't want you guys to prohibit future council buying them in the future. You can't do that.
I always thought it was difficult to just straight out prohibit something. I always, heard that, in the zoning ordinance, you had to have some sort of spot, even if it's on the extreme north side of the town or whatever, and it's gotta have this and that and the other thing. But I always thought you had to have some kind of a provision for just about anything. And I remember that when I was a mayor in Chisago City, is there was somebody that wanted to put basically a strip bar.
Sure.
And so there was a big discussion about that. And so, we put all these rules together. It's gotta be in the industrial park, it's gotta be this, it's gotta be that. And made it extremely difficult, but you couldn't prohibit it. And I know at the county level, I proposed a moratorium on data centers for 12 months, and it had passed through the county board. And as a member of the planning commission, we're gonna start working on regulations for, to address a lot of the negatives that data centers bring. And then put together an ordinance. And so I wanted to invite you guys to participate if you wanted somebody to participate in that process. And then, maybe either learn something or, through that process or just stick with a prohibition if it works.
The other thing, we don't even have enough land to build them. So,
Mr. Mayor, if I could respond to that. That's the one exception, where you have to come up with something, and that's, porn and strip clubs and things like that. And that's because of the First Amendment.
Oh,
So you're not allowed as a city to prohibit, the free expression, and let's not even get into that conversation.
okay.
The free expression that represents, so somewhere it has to be allowed, and that's true here too, by the way, and everywhere. But this is not that, and if the city chooses to prohibit a particular use, which the city has in this case, and the county could too, it can do so.
Okay, thanks.
Any other comments?
I just have one.
Yeah.
With regard to data centers in Taylor's Falls, it's not who we are. Taylor's Falls, we just rebranded. We are historic charm and scenic beauty. Data centers don't fit into that definition. And so, if I should be so fortunate to be elected as mayor, that would be the last thing that I would ever contemplate for this town. The last thing. So I just don't see it in the future of Taylor's Falls at all. It's not who we are.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to say. We're done talking about it now.
You said we're done talking about it. The thing that's being brought up over and over again is what can we do to strengthen our position on data centers? Can we do a memorandum of understanding like Scandy? So that's what's stirring in addition to the moratorium. And I've explained over and over again that, that it just doesn't make sense to do a moratorium. But what about a memorandum of understanding? And I did say we would ask for it. So, Fritz, do you have any comments on memorandums of understanding for
Well-
data centers?
I won't be long. Memoranda of understanding, usually it's something like this, has to do with a developer coming in and trying to reach some kind of overall overarching agreement. The city would be prohibited from participating, allowing a use that would be illegal under the city's point of view. In other words, let's say you've got a development that's going in, and the developer is going to be investing a certain amount of money on the site, wants an assurance or at least an understanding as to what the city's position would be with respect to different kinds of issues. One of the things that would be on the table in a situation like that is this prohibition. And the city isn't in a position to argue that it is going to allow this at some point or at some point in the future. That would be the thing that a memorandum of understanding would contain. So I think when people talk about this, the concern is in an environment where you've got, and I don't know what the situation is in Scandia, but where you've got a lack of clarity on that issue. A memorandum of understanding is designed to, more than anything, really protect the developer, but also to some extent to the city where some issues aren't clear or there's some variability in the issue. When that came up in the context of Taylor's Falls, I really didn't understand where people were coming from, because a developer coming into Taylor's Falls would have to immediately see that it's prohibited here, period. And, you know, you're not gonna get any city that I'm aware of to say, oh yeah, well, it's prohibited here, but let's do a memorandum of understanding and we'll just ignore that. It's just, it doesn't work that way. That's not what it is.
I believe there's a belief that there's a data center going in down at the MnDOT lot. So see, now we've been talking with developers. So that's where that.
Or I wouldn't tell anybody.
And I think in this case, Prince, the MOU that Scandia is talking about is very much similar, I think, to what the fact sheet that we have. It's really just an educational tool to get out to the public, because they have prohibited them as well, from what I understand, Scandia has. But there was still some unrest similar to here. So I think what they did or are planning to do is just put together kind of the fact sheet and say, this is the situation. Don't lose any more sleep over it. So I think we've complied basically, are compatible to what Scandia was proposing. The way I read the news on that.
It's just marketing then.
Well, the memorandum of understanding is actually a term of art. So I think that probably produced a little bit of confusion. I think, and what you put together, Councilman, if you put that on the city's website, I don't know what else you can do to enunciate that any more clearly as to what Taylor's Falls position is. And if that's essentially what they're trying to do by another name, I mean, yes, we prohibit it, but we really, really, really need it. So we're gonna put it, which is really what this memorandum, they call it something is what it sounds like. That makes it sound like something that it's not. I would think that would be actually a risky term for them to use. Because a memorandum of understanding actually implies that you're in the process of trying to work out some agreements or potential agreements with somebody for development. And that's the last thing I hear, going on here. So.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand their use of the MOU for.
Yeah, MOU is not this.
It's recorded. It's gonna be on the website. We're all good. Thank you. All right. Any other comments? Questions? Okay. No data center. Community center project, Gary.
Oh, yeah, thank
How are
you.
you, sir? Good to see you.
Good, thank you. It's good to be here, actually. It's been a while since we've shared anything, and I thought it'd be helpful for those of you who, this is the project we're actually talking about. It's the railroad building. And I thought it'd be helpful if we could just review a few things and just give you an update as to kind of where I'm at and what my struggles are keeping the project going. I also included a packet for you today on historical information, and I did it because I found that there was a lack of historical data being kept And I think it's important when you have a building that's this old, that is now being cared for, that we take everything we've got and dump it in a file. I'm gonna redo this file because it's a little scratchy and a little bit nasty, but then I would suggest that we would also take that to the next level. Any work we do be well documented ahead of time so that we can, 30 years from now, somebody, you and I aren't gonna be around here talking about this anymore. Somebody could go back and look at that data. And I think it's important. So I will enter this into a new file. And make certain that I mean, I think in general, I'd like to talk just a little bit about the grants and kind of going forward. We have applied for a grant with the St. Croix Valley Foundation and their subsidiary, which is the Chisago County Community Foundation, which is their arm of St. Croix Valley Foundation. They have agreed that there is a grant applicable that we could apply for. They encouraged us on the first phone call to try to find a matching grant. In other words, go to Fred C. Anderson, go to Catherine Anderson, go to maybe the Railroad Museum, and I've got a listing of other grant possibilities. Believe it or not, what's really interesting is the Minnesota Historical Railroad Museum out of Osceola. Why it's in Minnesota Historical Museum, it's in Osceola, Wisconsin, but they are a candidate for some kind of tie-in with your railroad building here. And I think it stands to reason something like that will happen. In addition to that, we have the Burlington Northern Heritage Foundation and the Minnesota Historical Society. And I've been a little bit reluctant because, of course, one of the first things they do once you're in their portal is start giving me a budget. Well, I can't give them a budget. I can't give them a budget because I don't have all of the answers. But when Elizabeth and I have spoken about this, it looks like next week, the SGI assessment will be done. However, they told us they're not going to have the results back. Was it for
2 to 3 weeks?
2 to 3 weeks? So in waiting for that, I thought it doesn't make any sense that we're waiting for that assessment to come back because the windows don't cost any more to put in if they have asbestos in them or not have asbestos in them. In other words, windows are windows. What ends up costing more money is the dispersal and the disposal of anything that's hazardous waste. In other words, if we find lead paint, if we find mold, if we find asbestos, it's going to maybe cost a little bit more to get rid of that stuff, but it's not going to cost any more to replace the windows. So what I, of course, would like to do is start putting the RFPs. I did a draft RFP yesterday for the HVAC. I'd like to do one for HVAC, kitchen, the roof, and the windows. If I could get those 4 done, I think I'd be ahead of the game because if we wait, we're going to be taking windows out of a building in December and January when that's not good timing. And I'd like to kind of button up the bones to this building and get that all at least in process. And thank you for your encouragement. I did talk to a HVAC guy locally, and I know that you would like me to pursue some of those. Of course, they need to be fair bids and they need to be in the running, but I'll yield to your city attorney when it comes to the RFP. I'm not drafting that. I'll prepare the document and make certain that somebody heard that. But, and of course, none of this I would be, I think it's important when you go in this grant, that you're not just seeking grants, someone that's going to hand you money. In other words, I believe that it should be a combination of corporate partnerships, individual giving, a fundraiser in town. I could easily see a Christmas fundraiser for that building. And again, I'll pull some help in and get some ideas on doing that. But I think if we just said we're going to go after grants, I think that would be a mistake. I don't think it's well-rounded enough. It's actually a little bit hard for the community to kind of even accept that. I know the goal here was that people did not want to see the taxes go up. That's my goal too. But ultimately, I think there's enough sources out there beside the taxpayers that can absorb the costs of this building being redone. And I do like it. The other thing I did is I thought it'd be helpful if we would position myself as some kind of a project manager. But the project manager with the city needs to have some restraints. I mean, I've heard some restraints on Mike's contract. I mean, ultimately, you can't just give me an open checkbook. I can't commit you to spending money unless you tell me I can. So going the RFP process, that kind of keeps me in check also and makes certain that I'm not going above and beyond. But ultimately, this is your project. It's not my project. I'm just the guy that's holding everybody's hand and trying to get through it. I do think it's important that we talk about the amount of time it's going to be a year and a half. We discussed that. That's not. But I'm prepared for that, and I think once we get the assessment back, I think we'll have a much easier time to kind of move forward and think positively about this. I don't think it's going to be the doomsday news some people expect. If, for example, the inspection comes back and say the building is absolutely so full of asbestos, you shouldn't go in it. There's still a cure for that building. I'm not suggesting you should spend millions of dollars on that building. But likewise, if you told somebody tomorrow you were going to tear the building down, they'd probably go crazy because it has such historic significance in this area. So I think we need to be cautious on that. And whatever we do, be sensitive, just not spending more than what we feel the building is really worth. Any questions? Carol, you have any questions?
You mentioned 4 projects, roof replacement, kitchen, HVAC, and what was the other?
Mold, maybe. We're doing a mold check. I know that actually. The city paid for a camera with a light on the end of it, so we can, when we drill a hole in the wall, we can now look in that hole and decide what's in it. Before that, we weren't going to do.
And windows for HVAC. Oh, I think.
Kitchen windows.
Wait, yeah.
Sandra, when you guys were doing the breakfast, we had gas issues that way on the kitchen.
Gas issues, yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
It's been rented.
well,
Yeah, I don't think I told you that, Gary.
no, I don't.
The stove has been.
Yeah, it's not the kitchen, it's all, but yeah.
Yeah. It needs to be. Well, let's talk about the kitchen a second, because I think it needs work. And it needs, I think it needs the door opened up to the bathroom so that it could be a handicap accessible bathroom. I think that there's a way to get that done. But I really believe that with the newer equipment in catering kitchens now, there is some newer equipment you could put in that kitchen that's not as big in size, that's more efficient, that would solve all of the issues if somebody had a catering event they wanted to do there. I mean, oftentimes I'll go to a catering. Containers that are being plugged into the trailer, so the food is arriving hot. So I don't think it's gonna be as big as an expense as some may be anticipated, but it definitely needs help. Definitely.
Robert, any questions?
And when are you looking for this proposed fee of $18,000 just for cleaner?
Well, I've been working on this project for about 9 months now and not getting any, not feel like I've got the momentum that I'd like to have. I mean, I'd suggested it be just as soon as we can get it done, let's do it. Let's get these bids out there. Let's get the RFPs out. Get them distributed and get some of this work done before the weather turns bad.
Yeah, just wondering how we're gonna pay for the work that we need to do. Unless we have a funding source here. That's the problem right now. We don't have a funding source.
Yeah.
Either for the $18,000 for any of the work that you're proposing to do yet. And I know that you're working on grants right now, and we may need to wait until those grants are in place before we pull the trigger on, signing any kind of contract. And usually we did give you some money. Was it $5,500 or some amount? Correct. To start off, and I know that we would, you know, I would really like to get the community center, into shape, soon. But it's gonna be dependent on grant money or some other source of funds like you were talking about, because right now, I don't want to throw it on residents. And, because we can't. Sure. The taxes that they're paying right now are really high. Probably the highest in the state of any, city in the state.
Wow.
Because first of all, Chicago County's taxes are high, and then we added our small town infrastructure and administrative costs on top of that. And it's just really hard for the residents here. And so, unless we have another funding source, outside of the taxpayers, I can't see us spending money on this right now. It's just to end, we're in budget season, and we already know that it's gonna be tough to get the budget, in line, so we're not throwing out another 10% increase, which the residents cannot afford.
Sure.
So,
Well, I would be wrong in telling you that the grants are there and ready to spend. That's not the way it is.
right,
The reality is you can apply for a grant and they can say, oh, sorry, by the way, you missed it by a month. Well, we know that ahead of time. We're writing the grants. We're gonna know when it's due by, when it expires, and when it gets issued. But the reality is, I'm not planning on spending any city money on repairs for this building. I think that we can purpose fund it. And even if we have to project fund it, in other words, when I go to Anderson Windows, you better believe me, I'm gonna ask them to be donating the windows.
right,
We're not gonna be buying windows from their broker.
right.
And the reality is the same thing comes with roof. I'm gonna be asking to buy the roofing materials at cost.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna ask that guy to give me a little bit of a break or a break on the labor and on his labor costs for
Mhm.
installing that roof. But the idea is not to spend
Right.
any city money.
Right.
But I've got to get the grant applied for before I know whether I have a chance or not. If I don't get the grant applied for, the months are gonna go, just fall right off the calendar, one after another, and I'm gonna have to wait till next year.
I thought that the grants were going to be applied for with the $5,500 that we already gave you, Gary.
Correct, but I can't apply for a grant without some bidding being done and some scope of work. Or the grant recipient or the person that's writing that grant is gonna look at me and say, you're not ready to move this project forward. You need a budget as far as what that kitchen's gonna cost, what the windows are going to cost if you had to pay for them, and what's the HVAC going to be. You're right, we can do that. We're in the portal now, but we have nothing to give them.
Okay.
I mean, I'm kind of just shooting.
Yeah, Gary, I'm understanding what you're saying now. Unless you start the project management part of this and put out the RFP so you know what it's gonna cost, you can't go and apply for grants in a way that will get you the money that that you need. Okay.
Because it'll look like I haven't done my homework.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just looked to, on the fund cash balances. Because we do have a community center fund, and I thought it was much healthier than it is. $8,666, not very healthy.
Not very healthy at all. No.
So instead of how we use some of that to buy a new stone, for at least temporary use.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So I know you said a year to year and a half to complete everything. I have, after we get going. Promise I built the day. We're going into budget season. We can talk about it. Maybe we need to extend it out past the year and a half. As much as I would love to see it done next spring, that's not gonna happen.
What's that commitment?
The shape we're in.
Yeah.
I guess that's what's, I'm always, my head's always turning when I'm trying to figure out how to,
Yeah, how do we do
how
it?
do we do it without raising taxes? And I agree with Robert. I didn't mean to butt in front of him. That's fine. That we need, it's not 18,000 that scares me. It's how do we accomplish it without raising taxes? So maybe there are options of grants that we could go out and have to pay for project managing.
Well, the easiest thing for me to do would be to ask for a matching grant from another foundation, from someone that's already agreed to give us one. Well, that candidate is St. Croix Valley Foundation, but again, without your approval, I haven't approached anyone else and asked them for matching because I don't think I should just be able to speak so loosely in your behalf. So I'm kind of looking for your blessing, and I can certainly do that. And I believe it, I mean, I've got enough construction experience that I can make a couple phone calls and get some ballpark numbers as far as what roofing is to see what we're even talking about. So I can pass that on to some of these grant writers. But I hate to see us wait a year because the assessment.
Yep. Agreed.
I just had a couple of questions about, the RFP process. And I'm sorry, I don't remember your qualifications exactly, but won't you need to engage architectural, engineering, other structural to help develop those RFPs, and how would those be for?
Well, we would gather some of that data from the SGI that when they're done with their assessment, we'll ask their engineer to, if he says the trusses in the roof need to be replaced because of a fire 30 years ago, we're gonna take his advice and we're going to then have an engineering firm look at those trusses. If they say we don't need to worry about it, we're gonna somewhat take their word. And between your city engineer and SGI, who's under contract with you anyway, I'm saying that we can get enough feedback on what needs to be done and what we can get by with maybe slipping through the cracks, so to speak.
Just an example, we had a general contractor come out, and our superintendent of public works and I met him down at the community center. We were looking at the kitchen and the bathroom. He said, I'd like to help, but you gotta tell me what you want. So it's chicken and egg. We gotta have a drawing the contractor can take and say, oh, okay, this is what you want. And that costs money.
Sure.
So, we don't have the luxury anymore of, is it Bruce Scott, who lived up on Angel Hill?
Yeah.
Who Elizabeth and I went through the community center file and saw his name all over documents in there. He was a registered architect. I think he did a lot of work for the city pro bono. Now maybe we can find an architect in our city who may have just moved in here, bought a home that might do that. I could reach out to them. I'm not sure. But, and maybe I'm just not seeing clearly, but all I see is us spending money so we can go get grants, which is fine. I understand you have to do that. But then I look at our financials and we don't have money to spend.
Sure.
So in the ideal world, we'd be able to go out and get a grant to do the assessment and the planning phase of it. And then we can give them all the good numbers, the other firms as we want, but I don't know if that's realistic.
Well, the reality is, I mean, a good example is kitchen. I can have a kitchen designer that I've worked with on other projects, ask him to drive here on a weekend, make sure he has access to it, and have him do some initial planning, take pictures, have him do some initial planning as far as what he would suggest, and he will do that for free. But the reality is when it comes to what kind of gas feed that stove needs from the gas which comes from the basement, he's probably not your guy. You're gonna need your HVAC guy. So it's a combination of coordinating all of the different people in different industries, because believe it or not, they all kind of do relate to each other, and they're gonna need to work with each other. And I can call in some favors, but you're right, when it comes to the technical side, I'm not an engineer.
Which we do have relationships with
Yeah,
electrical firms, with HVAC firms, and I'm sure they assist with some estimating. But it's getting to the point where they can actually come in and do that estimating.
sure.
That's kind of the hurdle we're not able to jump right now. I kind of agree with what's been said. I don't know as we're quite ready to jump into this both feet.
Yeah.
Just a lot of questions, in my mind. And I understand it takes time to coordinate all this too. And I don't want you to,
Yeah,
I'm guessing there's a bit of, philanthropy that's already been done on your behalf. Which I appreciate.
yeah.
But I don't feel it ethical to continue asking you to spend more and more time without proper reimbursement either, so.
But sometimes I have to be careful what I say or how I say it. And I don't want to give them the assumption that you've given me a carte blanche. That wouldn't be fair. And so I need to be careful.
So when we get the information back from, the SGI information and 3 weeks from now, we have that, we'll really kind of know what we're looking at as a structure. And this 18 retainer, you said you could go out if we gave you permission and start trying to see if we could get matching grants where then we would be on the hook for 9.
Well, I would probably, I'll give you an example. I would probably pursue the window bid without needing any more technical information than what I have. I mean, I believe I could get a bid done for that and get someone needs to write the RFP. I can start do a draft of it, but I could do that. Beyond that, when it comes to looking at asbestos and embedded roof beams and charred beams, that's out of my league. I wouldn't be hesitant in giving you a legal opinion. You could hang your hat on. But some of the simpler stuff I could do. Windows, kitchen.
But like the retainer itself, so if you said you were asking for permission, you'd have to get permission from us to go and see if one of our other grants would match.
Yeah,
And then we,
or at least your blessing so that
Yes.
I'm not,
and that would give us time to get the information to see what we're even looking at, and then we're going into budget season. And maybe we can start reaching out for donations to, if we only have to do $8,000 or $9,000, we can start asking local people that love that building to start fundraising, and some of our wonderful groups that, you know, I think there's a lot of people that want to see this going. I think there might be a way for us to not raise taxes for this, and maybe we just need to figure out if we can say we need help. It's okay to say it, right?
but it's hard when you don't, when you're looking at me, asking me how much help can I give? And I don't have the answer. for
No,
that.
I get that.
It's
No,
tough.
I guess I'm just figuring this part. This will be second.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the 18,000 I'm gonna do without budgeting for it.
Are there grants that would support that type of work?
Yes,
So you just need our blessing to go try to access them.
Right.
I wouldn't, if you can go get grants, help fund the initial engagement retainer.
I've actually had
I
a
think-
couple people reach out to me when they heard we were doing the building.
Because that's no risk on our part then, so, and you can do that with just us saying, go ahead.
Yes.
I'm fine with that.
I'm fine.
I am too.
That I can support.
I can support that.
Okay. So I don't even know if we need to vote on anything there, because we're just telling you to go for it. I mean, we already hired you to go and do grants.
We probably should put it in the form of a motion.
You wanna make a motion?
I move that we, and find this. Mention here again. Okay. I move that we allow Gary Borgland to proceed with trying to finance the his proposed engagement retainer and the rest of the project for the historic railroad building restoration, also known as Taylor's Falls Memorial Community Center.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Any other questions or comments?
I would just say if you need, you know, if it helps to have a city representative there with you, just
Thank
ask.
you.
You have to, any of us.
And very easily made. And I think just one more thing I'll cover quickly too. In addition to St. Croix Valley Foundation, they've been very good at helping me find homes. For example, the Minnesota History, Railroad History Museum, which is in Osceola, stands a very good chance they will participate and match and write a check. Now, I haven't given them the hard numbers yet, but there's several others. I mean, the Minnesota Starfish Society is very interested. And then there's historic, the Burlington Northern Historic Preservation Fund is well known to write checks for buildings like this. Well, thank you for doing that. Yeah, appreciate it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Gary.
Yep.
All right,
Thanks for your patience.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna move on to number 4, and this is just a discussion. It's a draft. We haven't really had the opportunity to talk as council, obviously, until we come here, and then, we also haven't had an opportunity to just kind of work with Fritz. This came up, I received multiple concerning phone calls and approaches at grocery stores, about, license plate readers, and I wanted to kind of just discuss it so that people know that currently the city of Taylor's Falls does not have any block cameras in it. Number 4. And I don't know why it's under old business either, so I figured that out.
We did talk about it once.
We did.
Last year.
Yes, thank you. So we did meet with Sheriff Pine, last year before, and he did share with us what flock cameras were. And did propose us to bring in flock cameras, at the time, and we kind of just said, no, we're not really. And it was very expensive. And every town around us has them, so we were like, you can't get in or out of Taylor's Falls without going by a flock camera. Why are we gonna put one? We just didn't feel, I'm trying to not speak for you all, but I don't think we felt comfortable making those decisions at that time anyway, because we just don't know enough about these cameras. Of the data stored, you know, all the other things that you can read that people are having a real tough time with on these. But I wanted to put it on here for us to have discussion. I also wanted to put it on here so that, I don't even know who the individual is because they don't like to use their real names, but our overlook here is not a flock camera and they have it on their little website and they think it is.
That it is.
And this gentleman unfortunately won't talk to me. And I'm not gonna use his name because I did do my homework and figure out who he is, but he's wrong. And so since this is gonna obviously be in the notes and everything, it's not a flock camera on our overlook. Where they have to actually take the battery out every year as it gets cold and the batteries die. It's to protect our porta potties from vandalism. That's all it is. So rest assured, we do not have any. I thought I drafted this with AI, full transparency. Because there's a lot of cities that are jumping on this bandwagon right now to just do more research. And so I put this together. We, like I said, we can just talk about it today and get some questions answered by Fritz if he can, and then put it on the next meeting. But I just wanted to kind of get out there that it's as bad as the data center. It's not here. We don't have one here, right? And they can't just put them on our property to allow us doing it. So. But Fritz, do you want to kind of tell us like what you're learning and hearing and dealing with, and then we can ask questions?
Well, I actually represented a couple of cities that ended up, there are a lot of data practices questions. I mean, we're just kind of at the tip of the iceberg in what's modern media, but some fairly complicated agreements between, for example, Ramsey was a client of mine, had an elaborate agreement with Anoka County, and what you can use, what data you can use. City really is liable under some circumstances for data that Anoka County might use. And so these things have to be pretty tightly put together, and I'm suspecting that most of these, at least I hope, that most of these are that way, but it's really complicated. You're talking about a system that is growing, I would say, almost exponentially. And petabytes of data out there that are just out there. And if you know how to access it, and you're authorized to access, and I think the problem here is that there were some people made the assumption that access was being allowed when it was not, or at least wasn't specifically allowed. So there were a lot of people that had very strong feelings about their data that was being used in a way that had been promised it wasn't going to be used. And so you're seeing a lot of these cities now saying, well, we're done. We're not going to, at least for now, we're going to have a moratorium. We're not going to share this anymore. Now, as I understand it, there are some very valid public service and public protection, safety reasons why these things are handy. Not too surprising, I guess, but the reaction among places that have already adopted it, and I would almost say visceral, people are really kind of all of a sudden very uncomfortable. That, we agreed because we thought that this was going to be a useful tool for law enforcement primarily. And that now all of a sudden it seems like others are getting access to it. So there's a lot that has to be thought through in my view. And it is very complicated. If you don't have a flock camera, I wouldn't be necessarily looking for an opportunity to have one, okay? There's just, even though you might be getting a lot of people that are saying, maybe Chisago County and others, we've got holes in our coverage now. Now that's the problem. There wasn't coverage, now we've got gaps in the coverage. You don't need to be part of that dialogue right now until this gets solidified. I know we had a meeting, I'm on the BCA advisory group about data practices. And they had a meeting just about this. And literally petabytes of stuff that's just out there floating around. And some real concerns. So, Mr. Mayor, you are ahead of the curve here. In being concerned about this. And I would, at this point, suggest that you, as a city, have no reason why you want to participate in this until the dust clears a little bit in terms of putting up the necessary guardrails. I think that the most recent scandal, but the thing that really bothered people was apparently ICE had full access to this. And I think what happened is law enforcement thought, well, certainly the feds can, even though they weren't specifically part of the agreement. And the fact that wasn't clearly delineated somewhere has caused a lot of the problem here, and a widespread diminished confidence in the system, I think, on the part of people that embraced it. I mean, fairly large police departments came in and said, sure, no, we want to be part of this. No, they're not secure. Because for the most part, cities are very careful, and certainly this one is, but very careful about data practices and data privacy and citizen privacy. And so this one kind of got away from me. So yeah, you're right, Mr. Mayor, to be concerned about it. You can be glad that you don't have to deal with cameras in your city right now. And there is absolutely no reason that I could think of why you would want to participate in this program until guardrails, maybe have, but until the guardrails are up, that would give people some comfort in terms of how this data is being used. And like I said, we're talking, it's beyond almost imagining just how much data is already being used in this system. That help?
Do you have any questions?
No, I'm thankful for your information. I agree. That, it needs time.
By the way, yeah, I did a nice job.
It's
It's a nice job.
great.
I'm sure my office would tell me that I didn't use the right format.
Yeah, it's very smart there.
I even typed in, when I did this, I said, make it look like a Taylor's Falls when it did. I can look at it right now.
Robert, do you have any questions for Brett?
I don't know that the duration of the moratorium is long enough. We have a 12-month duration. I'm wondering if we should make it 24 months. So then,
To 12.
12 is what you get in the statute. You're allowed to do 12. And this, if you don't have one now,
Yeah.
I don't know that you need one, but this would certainly pound a stake in the heart of any inclination anybody might have to, so I just put it here. It's a pretty strong statement.
yeah,
I see no harm. You can always lift it if all of a sudden you just decide, oh, we just gotta have one of these. If that day ever happens, like never, you can always change your mind. But, the cap is 12 months statutorily.
thank you.
I don't have an issue with a moratorium, just to gather more facts. Sherry printed out, the county's policy on it. And I guess I'd ask if, Sherry, if you could send the email out as well to council, because it has the links for those other two reports.
I did,
Oh, you did already?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
and I have them.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
The reporting that they do on both. I don't know the difference between the Flock and the Axon, if there's one for their mobile car based license plate readers, or if they're just in situ, but really interesting. I'd encourage council and the public to actually go educate themselves before making comments about Flock cameras. I'm not an expert. But being that we contract with Chisago County, I would say that, if we ever did implement something, if it's still contracted with them, that's the policy that we would use. Other than that, I think it's prudent to spend some time to take a look at it. And a moratorium would give us that, opportunity to do so.
Yeah, like I said, I put it together quick just because of, I could see it blowing up really quickly and then I saw people tearing them down around, the state. Obviously, we can all watch that. And I just, we don't need that here. We don't need everybody getting upset with each other. They already do that well enough. Especially going into an election year, trying to keep the peace with everyone. We don't need to go backwards and want the neighbors to still talk to each other. But my concern was the allegations really that we've never approved any cameras in town except for the one that points at a porta potty and it's not a Flock camera. So I just didn't like the fact that they were, using that. And I don't want them going up there and damaging it and the bathroom. And it did help us last year. We caught the guy driving circles, right? And we can, so, I mean, it does record if you're at the bathroom doing damage, it's going to catch you. So, but like I said, it's not a Flock camera. So, I don't know if we need time, to review or,
Let me, if I may, Mr. Mayor, if you're interested in having this as a matter of discussion, I can review this. I don't think it's gonna take a lot of work. It's actually not a bad thing. But I could put something together in the proper format. You could have it to discuss and act on in the next meeting if you want.
Yes.
Or not.
that'd be great. Are you guys all comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Just a moratorium,
Just the moratorium.
not the policy part.
Yeah, I did both just so we could start discussing, but I think the moratorium gives us, 12 months to.
Yep, no, I'm fine with that.
Okay. Thank you. we'll just wait and we'll, look forward to the updated one on September 14th. Thank you. Okay, new business. Since we moved from 1 to 5, we are gonna start with the municipal water and wastewater cybersecurity. Tim.
I worked with Kevin, after the initial bolus of all these things happening. And, very simply put, we're not at risk. Our systems are old enough. It's open air between our equipment and the internet, so, we're not exposed to any kind of cyber attacks on our systems. That's either good news or bad news. I don't know. From efficiency and productivity perspective, it'd be nice to have things a little bit more automated and remote access, but, it's good in this case from a cybersecurity perspective. But rest assured, if anything, if we do move in a direction for, actually get it up to contemporary standards with our treatment facilities, that would be an important component, to build into, whatever RFP we did, for new equipment. So, but the good news is we're not at risk.
Thanks for jumping on that so quick. I appreciate it. Any questions for Tim? Thank you. Moving on to number 3, the zoning administrator to have authority to issue fines for ordinances non-compliance. Robert.
That's me. It came to my attention that the zoning administrator doesn't have the ability to fine anybody for zoning non-compliant compliance issues. It's not one of the listed items on our fee structure. And I believe it should be. You know, we have several people with either cars that don't work that are sitting in their properties, or we have accumulation of junk in, that just as an eyesore. We have just non-compliance and nuisance properties. And right now, she has no ability to find them. And I was looking out at some of the cities around here. I looked at Wyoming and Scandia and Schaefer to see what they do, and thought Wyoming's was pretty good. It states that the zoning administrator can write a letter to the person who's in non-compliance, give them a period of time, and typically it's either 7 days or 30 days to get in compliance with what they see as the nuisance. And if they don't comply, she's able, and in the letter, it also states that they could be fined if they do not comply. And then if they don't comply by the date given on the letter, then the letter and the fine, she could call the sheriff, call the whoever, and have them deliver the letter with the fine. Okay. And so I think that it would be helpful to do that. Because right now we have no ability to actually fine anybody for non-compliance. And I think it would be helpful to do so. Just for people to, to do the things they're supposed to do with their properties, make sure that they are in compliance with the ordinances of the city, and not keeping their properties in an orderly fashion can just be a problem. So I think that we should do that. So there are ordinances out there that we could mimic, and perhaps Fritz, you could help us with that. And I know that, there's a state statute that says that that you can fine them $1,000 and it becomes a misdemeanor and all those wonderful things. which also means that they could spend 90 days in jail and all that type of thing. You know, that also could be in the letter, but it's not to exacerbate the thing, it's just to give them a motivation to clean things up if it needs to be cleaned up, or if it's a noise nuisance, to stop the noise and those types of things, you know? So I'm thinking that it would be helpful for the zoning administrator to be able to write a letter and start that process. And I think most people will comply. And that there won't be a lot of fines that are issued, but I think our town will be much cleaner and I hope that that would happen anyway, so. That's what I'm thinking. And I just wanted to bring it up for discussion.
But technically, it's an administrative citation. Is that correct? In what I'm reading online? It's not a criminal.
You guys are asking all these really complicated questions. And this is one of those,
Yeah.
because technically any violation of the city's ordinance is a misdemeanor. And the way some cities will do this, larger cities, more in control of the prosecution process than you can be.
Yeah.
The person that has the junk cars goes to court. And he's facing it's always a he, I don't know what it is, but he's facing $1,000 fine and 90 days in jail. That's the law. Usually at that point, there is a discussion, a conversation, and a lesser amount of fine is agreed to in a certain period of time to get it cleaned up. That's the way it works. Now, the problem with that is you get pushback. Courts don't like this. Courts don't, and I've had finger wagging lectures from judges saying, I shouldn't have to be enforcing it. Yeah, well, you get the big bucks. That's what you're supposed to be doing, right? They don't want to do it.
Correct.
And so there have been efforts. You're not a charter city. It's somewhat easier to do. There are charter cities that actually develop a separate administrative law function, and they have a list of fines. They'll have a hearing officer that's designated, the whole 9 yards. Works pretty well, but then the courts don't like it because they think you're taking away their business. That's another whole conversation. Works pretty well, but most statutory cities, and you are one, don't have that authority because it's been tried. There have been a number of cities that have said, well, we're gonna do that, you know, St. Cloud can do it, and we can do it. Well, no, we're not if you're not a charter city. So what you're describing, it sounds to me like Wyoming has done what I would call kind of a workaround, where you send the letter to the local jug house and you say, here, you clean up. We're gonna give you a certain period of time. We're gonna impose a civil fine. Because we're saying you're a nuisance. And because you're a nuisance, we are allowed to impose costs related to cleanup if necessary and all the rest of it. We can do that. And we'll do that. If you fail to comply, we will charge you criminally. Usually at the back end of this thing, the actual authority that the city has gets tied into it. My sense is that Wyoming is sort of massaging that process, and you're right. I mean, as an enforcement tool, in a lot of cities, most people, when they get that kind of letter, it's more of a, oh my God, you know, I had no idea that those precious 56 Chevys in my back lot, you know, were junk. Go, you know, you get into those kinds of interesting conversations. But most people, they get a letter like that, they respond. People don't like that. There's a small percentage of people that don't care, and then you get into these enforcement things. And ultimately, what'll have to happen is you'll either go in on a civil matter if it's a bad enough problem. You can bring a civil action, or, you know, it's cheaper from the city's point of view, frankly, just to do the criminal action. You reach the point where you just say, we're done. And, you know, you're not gonna pay our civil fines. We were nice to you. Now it's in the prosecutor's hands. And that gets us around kind of full circle to the problem we're still kind of having on an underlying way, which is that Chisago County really doesn't want to prosecute this.
You really get down to it. And that's a conversation I think I need to have, and Elizabeth's nodding, but that's a conversation I need to have with whoever sort of had one with the Chisago County Attorney.
Yeah.
And she sort of patted me on the head, said they're there, and we didn't really get very far. But they need to, and maybe that's what it takes. By the time it gets to you, we've already been through all this. So that by the time it gets to you, this is really serious and you're gonna have to take it seriously. But right now, what they're coming back at us and saying, I got a little bit of that dialogue, is, well, you haven't set up a fine schedule for it. That's not, you can't do that. You know, if they're violating your ordinance, it's a crime, it's a misdemeanor. If all of a sudden you're gonna create a schedule and you're creating, I thought, petty misdemeanors, I don't know you wanna do that, but create petty misdemeanors, maybe they've got a point, but I don't think there's another county or another city in the county that does that. So this is all about them not wanting to prosecute. This is all about them. Yeah, I'm not saying they're wrong, I get it, it's takes time. But I think that we could certainly, it's a long answer, but I think we could certainly develop something, Councilman, that would give Elizabeth the authority to sort of words that in a more formal way. It sounds, I think they're kind of finessing it. It sounds to me like Wyoming, there's no reason.
Yeah, there just doesn't seem to be any teeth in just a letter. But however, if there continues to be a property that people just will not clean up, we had the situation with the Springs Inn, that we had hoped, we'd end up paying a fine. He never did, as that I'm aware of, for leaving that property in crazy condition forever. We never ended up with $1,000 fine. He was not prosecuted for it, and we ended up cleaning it up, and which was the worst scenario because we didn't have the money to do it. So we are collecting it back, thankfully, but it seems that we need help from law enforcement and the county attorney for us to be able to get compliance with the people that are tough. And that just doesn't seem right. It seems like it should be easier than that. Start the process with the letter, possible fine if you don't comply by this date. It just seems, the steps are there. You have a documented file, and then if you need to have $1,000 fine and a misdemeanor and get the county involved, then you do that. And if we can't do that because we're a statutory city, that's just seems strange to me that we can't do that. So anyhow.
Do you have any questions? No, I can imagine how frustrating it is to have rules and not be able to enforce them. So I think there has to be a better way than what we're doing it today.
Yeah.
I'll send Sherry a copy of the City of Hopkins as a policy on administrative citations.
I believe that they are a
Charter city.
They are charter.
I believe. And I have developed a policy and set up a city that was a charter city, friendly. You can do that. But there's only a handful of cities that are allowed to do that. And the League of Minnesota Cities, I don't know that they did it in the last session or two. They were really pushing it hard. They really wanted statutory cities, which is virtually all the cities, to be able to do this. Because then you go in, you can have a hearing, you can actually go all the way up to $1,000. But 4 or 5 and have it be enforceable. And that way, the local county attorney can pay attention to important crimes. Well, if you're living next door to, you know, the junkyard, you know, it's hard not to call that, as you know, I mean, it's hard not to call that important. But, you know, they're focusing on, you know, meth and all the other kind of stuff that they're focusing on, and like I said, it's all but getting a little pat on the head saying, they're there. Taylorsville City Attorney, we feel your pain, but, you know, so much we can do. And I, you know, it's, so I think setting up a procedure for the more serious offenses you can do. And trying to find a way, I'm more than happy to see, you know, to see if Wyoming has got some special pinky dust that sort of lets them do this. You know, I'm all for it because I've been trying, I've actually been in situations where I'm trying to talk cities into this in one form or another. And finally, your points are very well taken, Councilman.
Well, thank you. One of the things that I'm gonna do is lean on the lead of Minnesota cities and see if we can't pressure a change in the legislature for the ability to do this as a statutory city. It's you don't want to start off with a fee of $1,000. I mean, it's to get rid of a car or whatever else there is or debris in their yard. Just doesn't make sense. So,
Anything you want to add, Elizabeth?
As the person who's supposed to move forward on compliance, I'm still thoroughly confused on exactly what the process is for what we have in place now. And, you know, is what we have in place now different than what we're gonna have in place in the future? So if you told me, you know, Rick, you left a piece of paper on the
I'll look it
floor.
up.
I'm gonna fine you.
That's why I'm asking.
They-
You're
they-
fine for that.
they're asking me to fine you for that, because I told you last time not to put your paper on the floor. I would not know how to go through that process.
Because there isn't. That's the bottom line. You know, I hate to say that, but because from the city's point of view, sorry, Mr. Mayor, no, you're fine. There isn't, you know, and, trying to develop, an alternative means, and having at the back of it, the fact that if you don't comply, you're gonna force us to send you to jail or something like that. Trying to develop it, sounds like Wyoming kind of has done that, so that people will feel coerced, because sometimes that's what you're talking about doing, is the trick here. But right now, by itself, there isn't anything. You know, you're in violation. Well, if you're in violation, that's a misdemeanor. And that matters if you've got somebody that prosecutes misdemeanors. If you're in a bigger city, for example, where the city, you know, the city attorney is in the office down the hall or something like that, on Bloomington or something, you go down there and there's a whole separate category of meetings. I used to have meetings all the time with the zoning staff. When I was, you know, with Fridley, and they were talking about the troubled people and who we're gonna cite, who we're gonna do administratively, who we're gonna do, you know, beyond that. And there, the enforcement mechanism is in place. In our case right now, who's our prosecutor? It's it's whoever has been assigned this week for the county attorney. And it's a very good, don't get me wrong, I think the county attorney's office here is very good, but this just isn't something that they
No.
prioritize. And
We're
it's
small potatoes. not even
extremely
potatoes.
frustrating, and I get it, so I hear it from you. You know, what can we do about it? And the problem is, unless you're ready to go after somebody civilly, it's a really bad problem. Then you're spending money on a civil case. You know, everybody's paying their taxes right to have this mechanism in place. Where's the criminal law? You got people that are violating the criminal law, but you end up with the triage of what's important and what isn't important. And,
So we just accept,
well, yeah, you can. I mean, that's frustration. That's conversation. I think that the councilman's suggestion is a good one. I'm all in on that, anything I can do, because I have tried, you know, for not a substantial number of years, but to persuade the legislature to let cities do this. You know, just let us do it. We'll take care of it.
Is there a way to develop something at this point?
Well, I tell you what, let me throw an ordinance together. And I won't use chat. And,
Put in your chat.
no, you should. Be careful though. You know, I just, one of the things I'm gonna bring for you to the next meeting is cause I'm teaching lawyers in Wisconsin, we need a lot of teaching. But about, AI policies in the city. And before you start running things through your chat, understand that you might be violating internal city policies. I'm not doing this to you, I'm really not, but you know, but you said that in the spring line, so while I'm at it, I think I'll send over my proposed, suggested AI policy for you guys.
Can you send over Wyoming's stuff that you got?
Yeah,
Yes, I have.
I could pull that up, too.
I have it, and it's actually under administration, chapter 2, and it has a section for nuisance properties, including animal regulations, and they have fees for everything. Waste and rubbish regulations,
Yeah,
rubbish,
let's do that.
rubbish accumulation, rubbish collection without a license, which I think is interesting. Unauthorized disposal of garbage, so all of those things have a particular fee. Just rubbish accumulation in a yard is $150. Then they have parking violations, ATV and snowmobile regulations, alcohol and tobacco, fireworks, loitering, and other nuisances. They all have fees attached to them. So, which is really interesting.
Well, I'll say, if I may, Mr. Mayor, I absolutely, I mean, if nothing else, the down there and see what happens, you throw it in the wall and see what's.
Well, it does abolish the judiciary then,
Oh,
forget about due process.
you don't wanna go to war with them.
Comments?
That's what.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Chris. We appreciate it. Number 4 here, it's our National Night Out that is coming up quick. It is August 18th. I'll read this just so it is on record. So, whereas National Night Out, a unique crime drug prevention event, has been scheduled for Tuesday, August 18th. There is 2026. We'll note there, Sherry, before you.
Have you sign in?
Yeah, it's 20256 in there right there. I could have told you that ahead of time, I'm sorry. National Night Out provides a unique opportunity for the city of Taylor's Falls to join forces with thousands of other communities across the country in promoting cooperative police community crime prevention efforts. We are a week after, I think last week was the most of Mississauga County, so we're really blessed to have the sheriff's department fully involved with ours. So all residents and businesses play a vital role in assisting the Mississauga County Sheriff's Department with their crime prevention efforts in the city of Taylor's Falls and is supportive of National Night Out locally. It is essential that all citizens of the city of Taylor's Falls be aware of the importance of crime prevention programs and the impact that their participation can have on reducing crime, drugs, violence in the city of Taylor's Falls. Police, community partnerships, neighborhood safety awareness, and cooperation are important themes of National Night Out. Therefore, I, the mayor, hereby proclaim Tuesday, August 18th, 2026 as National Night Out for the city of Taylor's Falls. Very fun. We will be doing the backpacks again for each grade, with some supplies in it, and the kids can fill out their name and hopefully they get drawn. I will probably ask somebody on council if they could be there, because I will be in Ohio, so I will not, I'll miss this one. Real quick. Kevin, he has the name tags, I think, or not. And so it'll be at still same place, church, and then across at the school, right? Okay, perfect.
From 6 to 8.
6 to 8, okay. Well, thank you very much again for. So, I'll make sure that we get everything over to you, or we'll get it over to church. And that way it'll be there.
Great, thank you.
Okay. All right, we are gonna move on to, number 5, and this will be the city office security glass and panic buttons. Oh, did I miss one?
Yeah.
I am sorry. I am so sorry. Number 5, or number 4 would be, grant writing seminar. And Carol, you attended that, so take it away.
So I just wanted to let you know that I participated in a Zoom grant writing course, a 16-hour, and it was very, very helpful. And I just got a lot of resources, like places to look for grants. And even the instructor said, you know, if you're looking for help, you know, please just contact me, which I just thought was really quite a bonus. But before I start anything, I want to be directed by council. I mean, I've talked to Todd Streeter, he knows that I did it. But I don't want, I don't know. I don't know, like, what are the priorities? What do we want to focus on first? And then I would love to just start and practice and start doing it. So I'm kind of here just looking for guidance from you.
But we could pair you up with the community center, right?
Well, except for his daughter does it, so,
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
activists are the groups that originally were part of the CAP process.
They're not, I mean, I think they're still ready to be active, but Todd was talking about the next project is going to be the revitalization downtown this fall.
I was just wondering if they had things they'd want to present to the council.
Uh-huh. Yeah, well, I could talk to Todd. I mean, should I start with Todd and just kind of see what he thinks is
Yeah.
the next thing?
Yeah,
Okay,
and I think downtown revitalization is really essential, and it should be part of,
mhm.
you know, a high priority.
We're meeting again next Friday morning,
Oh, you
the
are?
downtown revitalization.
Okay.
It's all the businesses that are, I think there's 12 businesses. And we've been meeting every couple of Fridays in the morning. They want a nighttime meeting, but it's kind of tough right now, so we're trying to figure out what works for everybody.
Yeah.
But we do have a number of building owners that have been coming too. Not just the businesses.
Yeah.
So you might want to come and listen,
Okay,
and that is next, it's 21st next Friday, right? That'll be 8 to 10.
8 o'clock.
Yeah. And that's if we get enough people, I'll let us know if nobody can make it, but
Okay.
so far it's been about 6 of us there.
But he's coordinating it.
He coordinates it, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's
It
exciting.
was really weird sitting in front of a computer for 8 hours a day. I haven't done that for-
Thank you so much, thanks. All right, let's go to our final topic, and that will be the city office security glass and panic buttons. This came up quickly the last couple of weeks, and I know we have a very concerned and involved citizen that sent an email us to council this last, well, Sunday.
Are we closing the meeting? I'm sorry.
I don't think we need to. I don't want to close the meeting. We're not gonna make any decisions today. I think we can just talk about it and then we're gonna continue forward, so.
All right.
We're not gonna hide anything on this. We have, unfortunately, some people aren't well sometimes. It doesn't excuse what happened, and just, you know. We need to talk about it because we've had conversations before what we should do for our staff, and our staff wrote a letter. They called me, they were very scared. And so it's not us just wanting to spend money. When we put this stuff on the agenda, I told Sherry to work with the office and get some ideas. You know, just so we can kind of look at how we can keep them safe. I'm gonna read this. This was put together by our office, and then we can kind of go into discussion on what we think and whatnot, and we'll let you go right after, because you've been so patient. So thank you. So it says, dear council members, City staff is respectfully requesting safety glass to be installed at City Hall customer service desk to provide an additional level of protection for employees and the public. Employees working at the customer service desk regularly interact with members of the public, and there are occasions when individuals become upset, agitated, or behave unpredictably. In these situations, employees are vulnerable due to the open nature of the customer service area. Unfortunately, we are living in a time when mental instability seems to be at an all-time high. It's hard to dispute with every news channel showing shootings in schools, churches, restaurants, movie theaters, and even festivals. After speaking with the sheriff's department, we feel that it's our best option for security. The law protects these unstoppable people from being detained or hospitalized against their will. The individual must be of harm to themselves or others before any protection is offered to the public. Time and time again, we have seen this unfold. If only they would have listened, she or he would still be alive. Why wait for something bad to take place? Let us be proactive and secure our city hall. Installing safety glass at the customer service desk would provide a physical barrier and added measure of protection while still allowing employees to assist customers effectively. This request is being made as a proactive workplace safety measure and the goal of protecting employees and maintaining a safe and welcoming environment for everyone visiting City Hall. We respectfully ask the council to consider having the customer service area evaluated and safety glass installed. This improvement would help address employee safety concerns and provide greater peace of mind for staff who work directly with the public. Thank you for your time and consideration of this important safety matter. We appreciate the council's attention to the safety and well-being of City Hall employees and visitors. That's signed. So, just thinking that we are doing this to spend money really kind of upset me over the weekend. Shouldn't let this individual upset me because it doesn't really matter. I don't think anybody has the right to come in here and insult anybody and tell them they're gonna do sexual things to them. And when I got a phone call, we're lucky I wasn't here. So, and unfortunately, if you don't point the knife and come out and lunge at somebody, they won't do it. They can't do anything. So, you can take a knife and show it and put it away and you're okay. And so for somebody to send us an email thinking that we're just spending money and not knowing the whole picture and not able to ever come up to a meeting, it's totally ridiculous. And I hope this gets back to that individual. I really don't care. So on that note, I didn't close it for that reason because I want it to be public. And they have Indian Head Glass here for us to hear about what ballistic windows would look like. So I'm going to let you kind of explain to us and then last questions. I'll go from there.
Yeah. Obviously, we were asked to give a quote the day of the incident. So we came in and measured everything out and take it that this is just a baseline. This level 3 is what we have put in for years. That's typically what's done is the level 3, and I brought a sample of that today. We also gave you the level 7, which is much more extreme for more high-powered weapons. ARs, AKs, go as high as 50 cal. But the level 3 is at a 44 Magnum, 3 shots. That's where they consider the degradation of the material to where it's pumping. Doesn't mean it's still not going to stop multiple shots after that. It's just there's a higher risk of something penetrating completely through it. As you'll see on that, the level 3 for your typical handgun, the 10 millimeter, 9 millimeter, 308s, it doesn't barely penetrate it. So that's your most common 9 millimeters, going to be your most common handgun. If somebody decides to walk in with an AR, that's not going to stop it. And it's very expensive. This stuff, it comes as a complete system. You can't vary from any component of this system or it's not considered at that level. So if you go level 3, you have to have the full framing. You have to have the ballistic speed holes, the ballistic and through trays. Otherwise, any deletion of any part of that voids any kind of warranty or liability on the manufacturer.
And we've installed quite a few of these over the years. We've done the Discovery Building in Osceola at the police station. Price wise, comparatively, that was 8 years ago, it was 25,000. And that was for 4 fairly large panels in the front. We just did Baldwin Police Department. That's a different configuration, but it had a handicap tray and then an upper tray and 2 speak holes, but that had some parallel panels and open air. So it was completely different architectural design. So they had to specially build that. And it was smaller than yours, but that was still in the 20,000 range for level 3. We just did one at St. Joseph City Hall, just a 4x4. That was about $7,000. Like I said, yours, what we discussed, the 2 speak holes, the tray, your handicap level, but the full level 3 ballistic was in the 15,000 range. And obviously there, you can go down to level 2. I brought a couple different. You can get these are all readily available online. There's so much information that you can get when you start discussing and researching what you want to do. And you don't necessarily have to even go ballistic. You can go with either 1-inch polycarbonates, or you can go with a 3/8 tempered with a safety film, or what they call a ballistic blast film, which if something were to break or smash, it's going to hold together. So they're not going to readily be able to bust through it. But if you are intent on stopping a firearm, you're going to have to go with ballistic film. Because then you also have to consider that your walls and doors are not ballistic. So there is that. You're going to have this nice opening that is ballistic and safe, but everything underneath, everything with sides, everything else is not. And any one of these weapons will shoot through that. So I just brought you a little chart here with rifles, handguns, all that, and that's online. This is a simple schematic of a basic 3x3 with that we discussed with kind of the dimensions and the cutaway of how it's put together. And then this is just a simple what levels they're typically used for. The level 3 is police stations, government facilities, and educational. And again, you can find all this online. Doesn't mean you have to go with that, but you've got the price fully installed if you want to do that. And I would suggest going to these level 3, because everybody, that seems to be the most common. And I can show you that quick. And you can see as many shots. I've got some friends that like to shoot stuff, so maybe check it out. And we took it to the range, and this was at about 25 feet. The ballistic ratings are at 4.6 meters, which is about 15-ish. This was at 25 feet, and you can see if anybody wants to come up and look at it too. 9mm, 10mm. The rifles go completely through it. The 44 penetrator, a 308, the 223 from an AR, they all just went right through it. But your handguns, the 357, and like I said, 38 special, barely even, it just bounced off of it. But this is the actual level 3 material. It's 1.25 inches thick. Level 2 is 1 inch thick. Level 1 is 3/4 inch thick. And then if you get all the way up to like level 7, level 8, they're 2.5 inches thick. But just stop the feeling cattle. But you can see that it basically, see how it all mushrooms out? It doesn't actually break the glass. It's all polycarbonate. It just absorbs the energy and the heat and basically just kind of melts itself right in there. And these slugs are still in there. This is a 9mm actually out of my handgun. This is full metal jacket. That's going to go through pretty much any multiple walls. Sure. Because defense rounds are typically hollow points that expand out. This should go through everything, and it just stopped it cold.
Thank you.
And,
So the opening was how big? With the ballistic,
which open,
that would have the actual ballistic material.
How big is their window?
Is the full.
it's the full,
But we could reduce the size of that. a little
Exactly.
bit. We have plenty of windows out around the perimeter on the inside of the office space, so it wouldn't be like we're feeling a lot of light coming in. And they do make material to put inside or on walls. That's
Yeah.
pretty reasonable as compared to the
yeah, the
glass.
Discovery Building, all their walls are ballistic. It's like a 5-inch, it's super dense, 5/8 inch thick. And you could retro that in to the walls existing and then finish them after
Because
too.
we have the knee wall to consider
Yeah.
as well,
Yeah.
that can be shot through. And you mentioned the door. If I'm intent on harming someone, I'm gonna go after the door latch and then just go in. So I don't know what we do about the door.
Well, this person suggested we turn it around because he could kick it in that right now. Because it pushes in instead of being on the, the other side. And so he was.
He was
I give us- yeah.
Oh, right, yeah.
I did look for grants, and there are some available. For this sort of thing. I didn't read through them thoroughly. But I think if we reduce the opening size, that would help with cost.
Exactly.
And we could, then spend some money on hardening the non-opening area as well. I mean, you're trying to buy time,
Exactly.
because there is an egress out the back that you could pretty readily get out of and out of the building. But we also need to consider panic devices. That's something we talked about a long time ago. Before, I think even before Carol and Bob were on the council. That would summon, without calling 911, that would summon sheriff's department immediately, which I think is an important aspect of that. So I think we need to do a full assessment of it. Come up with the best solution, balancing cost and the safety for our staff. I mean, I was kind of fuming too when I read the emails. It's just ridiculous what some people think. This is a legitimate concern. It's a legitimate issue raised by staff.
And we stress.
It's not ridiculous. It's not whatever other adjectives that were thrown out there. So
If I may speak on, Michelle and I can see the cameras for a few of the cameras that are on the property, and one is the front area, the front door. Since last week, that's all we do. We're staring at that camera every minute. And for people to poo-poo, and I'm not someone that gets scared very easily.
I'm not either.
But mentally ill people, and it could be some old guy accused, we don't know until they get to us what their frame of mind is. This is extremely serious to us, and, we're even thinking we'll lock the doors until we have, something complete. And then just let people in through a doorbell, and we can look at them. I did. At least this one person, we would obviously not let in.
Okay.
But.
Is it me?
Go ahead.
Doors, the glass doors are not.
Are
they safety
tempered?
glass?
They're tempered.
Do you know what? And
They just
yeah.
look shattered. Feel like a.
They're hardened glass, unless you had something specifically put in when the building was built. They're just tempered glass. There's two pieces of tempered and they'll break like a side window in your car. It takes a lot more impact to break them. But if somebody were to smash them, they can smash them and get in.
Okay.
Yeah. the way to alleviate that a little bit, which St. Joseph did, was all their exterior doors and windows were a combination of, and a lot of schools now are retroing, tempered outside with laminated glass inside. So that even if they were to break the hardened glass outside, they'd have to pound like heck to bust through the laminated glass to get in, which really all it does, it buys time. You know, it slows them down and they'll get frustrated and they'll go and try something else.
Are the hurricane films?
They're, well, just like bomb blast, we put bomb blast films on with, in recruiting centers. And this was a thing, a while, you know, 15 years ago, that was pretty common because there had been some bombings. And it holds it together. It doesn't, it's made to just take the blast and just kind of bubble it and hold it so that everything doesn't just blow in on you. In the hurricane, it's a similar thing. Yeah. It's to avoid shards of glass and other debris from flying in.
And is there any savings to using that 3M film with some kind of other glass, cheaper glass? Is there much less cost savings?
You're gonna save versus the ballistic. Obviously, if you don't go ballistic, you're not gonna be able to stop hand.
Right.
But if you were to go with the heavier 3/8 tempered and put a film on that, it's gonna really be tough for somebody to get through it. If you were to do a laminated, you know, 2 tempered pieces with a laminate, that would be harder to get in, but then it gets, the cost goes way up with that stuff.
You're replacing frames.
Yeah, if you think that you can get by security wise with just a barrier that people can't break through real easy, you could go with a 1/2 inch polycarbonate or go with a tempered with the film on it. And you'd be able to slow people down and it would be very difficult for them to get through it.
And you're just speaking about a weapon
Oh, a weapon,
other than
a hammer, a crowbar, you know, base, yeah, anything like that. But again, then you aren't gonna stop him.
Is the staff worried about actual firearms? Or people,
That's what they,
or people climbing
exactly,
in?
that's what you guys need to decide which level of safety you need to go to.
I think it's more the jumping through.
I think it depends on the difference.
it just depends on.
Yeah.
I think
Potential.
There been any weapons brandished in City Hall?
Yes,
So wow,
last week.
really?
So I think that safety is paramount
Yes.
and we have to do whatever we need to do in order for them to feel safe. And so I agree with Councilman Grove that we need to do an assessment of this. And if we can find the money for it, great. Meaning a grant, but even if we don't find a grant, we need to find a way to get this done.
Well, if we could repurpose some of the bond funding
Oh, that's right, we do have.
for the,
Yeah, CSAP, yeah.
reprioritize that list and,
Yeah.
I mean, I can certainly, we're gonna be gone for a week. We're leaving Saturday. I'd certainly be willing to do that, but, I think it'd be well worth our while to get a proposal on a smaller opening.
Yeah.
And to do the laminated glass with the film on the interior
Mhm.
of the vestibule, because the outside is open all the time anyway. That would be a simple, quick thing to do, and I think we should, it's our security firm, CSW.
CWS.
I'm just very good.
Kevin.
But I think panic and electronic strike on the inner door,
Yeah.
just for a lockdown purpose. If you see somebody coming,
Yeah. we could lock
hit a
it
button
down.
and it'll lock it
What
down.
if I'm not at my desk?
Well,
Well,
If- eventually, I think we should have that anyway. Probably good. It's a step we can take.
Right. Burn that.
And you can use it like you described. You can buzz people in.
Turn that door jam around so it opens up. Oh, is that in?
Yeah, we'd have to check with fire code. There might be a reason why it's,
Not inside when you have an opening. No fire is being stopped.
I'm surprised it opens it. But there is an exit out that, so.
You have the person that you guys went through clerk training that did active shooter or whatever. Have you been able to reach out? Has he?
I have his contact info, but I didn't reach out.
Why don't we see if he can come and do an assessment, see how long it would take?
I don't know if he knows that.
Okay.
Maybe so.
See what they.
Maybe like you.
He, was at our Clerks Institute and spoke about active shooters, and he was involved with one in Newell years ago. Mentally ill, older man, they could not get him locked up.
Couldn't get him trespassed.
They couldn't get him trespassed, nothing, and he came into a big meeting. They were graduating some of their policemen that night and, walked right in with a rifle, started shooting, and he, of course, didn't make it. One of the new recruits was shot. And another officer was shot as well, but, people in the vestibule celebrating these new, police officers and, yeah, it was, every year we've heard about something, so. He could come give his side of the story, but I don't know that would be helpful with our decision.
I think, see if Kevin can maybe call some contractors and have them come and see how much it'll be to reduce the window size. That way we can get a different quote on that.
Yeah. Do you know contractors who have done this?
I mean,
Somebody
we
that
deal
you
with
can recommend?
some fairly large contractors, not like a smaller construction company. I mean, we deal with, Derek's a lot. Pro gamers, they will do a lot of remodel and can do some of that stuff too.
You just put in some solid car oak.
There is, a firm that was working with the library on their stuff. It was very reasonable. Did a lot of free planning with them. We can reach out, get their number and reach out. I'll get Kevin in touch with them.
Is it wise for city staff to be parked 3 feet from a forest going to their cars?
That's a separate issue. We're worried about indoors right now.
Well,
I mean, we can't prevent, unless we have a sheriff here.
I would say park over at the side and whatever.
Yeah, that's good
alternatives.
advice. Yeah.
Well, let's do that. Let's start working on reducing it. I'll bring everything with me to Ohio, and that way, if you want to just copy me on it, and then I can work with Kevin. And then we'll figure out what that's gonna cost, get a different quote for the glass. Do you guys do panic buttons and everything, or would that just be through CWS?
ABC.
Okay, so let's,
We have a quote.
okay,
We have quotes in December.
for the strike, for,
So
Not bad.
okay,
no, I can get that though.
okay. Let's have them do that, and then we'll reconvene on this on September 14th. We'll have multiple bids for glass too, just so we have to.
Yeah, we reached out to White
And if we don't,
Get their.
try it again, if not,
We'll find somebody else,
or
or just go with.
do we have
We're
to?
not required.
We're not, so,
So, not if it's
That's-
less than
75.
okay, so let's just work with CWS then, and then the contractor, and then we'll put it all together as a package and come back. If they didn't call back, that's fine,
Right.
we'll go with the
Can
one.
we discuss, at this point right now, the office being unlocked and, or can we lock it? Should we? I don't wanna watch the camera every minute.
It's a lot of getting up and down, opening it, but I mean,
It is.
I'm not
No, I
making
know.
an excuse on it.
No, I know. I agree, because I'll have to do it.
I guess if you feel like that much is a threat right now, and I'm not saying you shouldn't, then I'm okay if you have the door locked and answer it and
We can
allow
put
our
us,
constituents in. And you can put a, you know, a memo out there saying why at this time.
Except tomorrow.
So-
yeah. Can we please?
Nobody voted to have it fall.
Right.
Yeah, so after tomorrow, if you wanna come up with, and then do that, and then we'll work as fast as we can and
I think we were in agreement with something, right? Having the doors more secure.
Not as a permanent solution.
No, not a,
Because once you make the decision, it's still another 4 to 6 weeks.
exactly.
At very,
So we're looking a couple months now. We need some security.
You could have Paul sit there to share with the lower ground.
he did that with the loaded.
I was just gonna
I mean, what for some grants? I'll send it.
try to see if my browser history, if
Yeah,
I can find them again.
I'll check into it.
Seemed like it was on the state. On the LMC
LMC.
portal, yeah. I would say if we're looking for an assessment, maybe the LMC has something, because they had the safety guy come out.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Um. Phone call to them, see if there's any resources they can offer.
I'll send them an email. I'll send it tonight and they get back to me really quick. So I'll get contacts and share that. And we can go from there. Okay. For the meantime, I would just go ahead and start on Wednesday. And
Great.
we'll move as fast as we can. I know it's gonna take time, so I apologize. Everything does.
Everything does.
Did anybody verify the information I got that he's locked up?
You didn't have time. No, we don't have to do that. That's not our responsibility. He was threatening.
Yeah.
We're just leaving it at that.
All right. Well, we made it through it. Another successful meeting. Liaisons or members, you guys have anything you want to report? Any updates?
I don't think so. You're right there.
Okay. Well, our next meeting is September 14th, back upstairs at 6 P.M. So on that note, I'll need a motion in a second for adjournment, please.
I'll make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor of adjournment, say aye. 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 Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. It's 8:07.
That's me. She's gonna find me for every one of them. Do I gotta pay you to pay the mortgage?
Well, it's a good news is if we.
I called up first one, they called her, if you want to get. We were this base close. My account, and then he gives me.
Through there.
I'll do
It's the price right away.
Yeah, it just seems like it'd be less.
Yeah.
You can see that one. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
We'll be in touch. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
They just almost finished, right?
Do you want to go over the?
Yeah, I think that they do.
Okay.
Because they actually say the statute,
Yeah.
That's why.
which have more history to it, the statute,
Right.
just allows stop sign violation. Yeah.
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 So they decided to go all in on this. Yeah. And the one key thing, Karen, is the whole
He knows the do.
what happens if it does it have sand? But then it's a, you need to charge the criminal, yeah, they do.
I know somebody you can email, I was telling you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is